Where else might computer vision that analyzes a lot of images be useful? In radiology, where humans get MRIs and CT scans for a whole host of reasons, most notably detection of cancer. One of the problems in US healthcare is that you have to have a problem first, and only then does your primary care physician refer you to the radiologist and some other specialist to get an MRI or CT scan, by which time the cancer that you have is more advanced than it needed to be. I've often wondered, why don't they do MRIs? And in some cases, CT scans. CT scans have a lot of radiation, but in some cases, CT scans as a part of a normal checkup so that everyone's cancer is found early. If you're doing an MRI once a year starting from age 35, you will either get a clean bill of health, or whatever cancer you have will be found very early rather than it being found 15 years later when it's already at an advanced stage and you are in a disease management footing rather than a prevention footing. And the answer is because of the cost of MRIs and CT scans, and a large portion of that cost is the time for the radiologist to look at the images and his compensation. Now, if AI were to analyze all these MRI and CT scan images much more efficiently across a lot more people, they would find patterns across the images of many, many types of people all over the world. And they would find cancers much earlier because they can look at things at a much smaller scale than the human radiologist. Thereby, the cost of the MRI or CT scan becomes cheap enough that it can be part of your normal checkup, or you could even pay for it out of pocket. It's not that expensive when AI is doing all of the visual work. And the radiologist is guiding the AI, just like the astrophysicists with the radio telescope example before. And all sorts of cancers would be found a lot earlier. And as we all know, with cancer, prevention and early detection is the vastly more preferable situation than detecting it very late, because if you're a stage 3 or stage 4 cancer patient, it's all about slightly slowing the disease. The treatments are brutal, have tremendous side effects and other negative repercussions, could be very expensive and so forth. To the extent cancer is cured, it's not going to be cured by reversing cancer for people who are stage 3 or stage 4. It'll be cured, quote unquote, because cancers are found much, much earlier and zapped a lot earlier for more people. That is where cancer death rates will go down in society, by much earlier detection, because the cost of detection became low, not because stage 3 or stage 4 patients were brought back from the brink. That was always going to be the much more difficult technological and medical challenge. So this example tells you how AI, in increasing efficiency, actually delivers good outcomes without eliminating jobs. So think about this for now all professions. This is a chart from McKinsey, and it's a few years old, but this vertical axis is the ability to automate a particular job, and this horizontal axis is the hourly wage in the US. Nobody makes worldwide charts, otherwise I would use a worldwide chart, but nobody makes those. And this line is about the halfway point. These are the jobs above the line, which are more resistant to automation. These are the jobs below the line. Now, since most people are trained to think of their job as a static thing, and that the role of government is to make sure they have a job, in almost any country that has elections, the politician that wins the election is usually the one that is able to convince more voters that that politician will create jobs for them or keep their jobs secure. Almost every country in the world that has elections is pretty much an election held on that issue above all others. And therefore, a person's instinct is to look over here and hope that their job is not over here in a location that is easily automatable. Now, if you're a viewer of this channel, I don't want you to think that way. I want you to think like a true entrepreneur and a technological visionary. The way a true entrepreneur and technological visionary would react to this chart is to look gleefully at the various functions that are easily automated in this lower left-hand corner, and then try and devise a business that can be built mostly around those functions. What type of business can you create simply by using these various types of AI? Because then you can build a revenue stream and hire a lot fewer people than you might have had to hire before. And in fact, that can make the difference between a business being viable versus one that in the earlier world might not have been viable. Think of it this way. Before AI, on the left-hand side, you might have had an idea for something that has $3 million of revenue. But then you find it has $4 million worth of cost per year in both cases. $3 million a year of revenue, $4 million a year of cost. Therefore, that's a business that makes a loss, $1 million a year of loss, and that's not a viable business longer term, and therefore it's a business you won't even do. So this remains an idea in your head. But after AI, envision the same revenue stream, $3 million a year of revenue. But because you're automating more of the functions, the $4 million a year of costs becomes $2 million a year of cost. And thus you have $1 million a year of profit. A loss of $1 million a year became profit of $1 million a year. And more importantly, a business that never existed in this scenario now does exist. Now, modern economists in formal institutions are about 70 years behind thinking this far. They have no curiosity about businesses that are not created because of unfavorable policies and things like that. It's not something they will learn about even after watching this video. They're about 50 to 70 years behind actually coming to grips with this type of concept, because this is not easy to measure, but it is hugely important. The concept of opportunity cost is very large here. A business that was not viable enough that anyone would bother to start it suddenly becomes viable and someone starts it. Consider the YouTube channels that are very successful. Someone started that with little or no budget, and they got enough traction within enough time of their effort that now they have a revenue stream. And then they invest in things that improve that YouTube channel, like hiring an editor or hiring people to do other tasks for that channel. That is not artificial intelligence, but it is an example of a business that started because the barrier to entry was low and chance of profitability happening sooner rather than later was higher. And that's why people with little to no starting capital were able to start a lot of these channels. I bring that example up because this is YouTube and everyone watching this is familiar with such channels, of course. But within artificial intelligence, this can be any type of business that can use AI for automation. All those job functions we saw in the chart before are ones that exist in various corporations, large and small. If a cluster of them can be automated easily, then you can possibly create this type of scenario. Businesses that didn't exist now can exist. And that's why there are, in fact, companies that have $3 million of revenue and it's only 2 people or 1 person because everything he does is AI. And that person is very wealthy because he's earning $3 million of revenue a year, and the valuation of that business is some high multiple of this revenue. So this is the fundamental foundational concept in terms of artificial intelligence and how you can use it to make yourself wealthy. We are still in the early days of AI in terms of specialized business applications that are available to small-time entrepreneurs, but this is how you should think. Not that AI is automating your job, rather that AI automating a job means the employer is pocketing all that money. You should then use that same AI to compete with that employer. Any business that has high margins attracts competition. That is nothing new. That is business 101. And when artificial intelligence is increasing the margins of a business, it should attract competition as well. That's why artificial intelligence, to the extent that it automates work that was going to be done by humans, is the closest thing to free money that can ever exist for an entrepreneur. Now, the same thing rolls up to the highest macroeconomic level, and that's why I say money printing has to rise exponentially just to offset this type of technological deflation that is a byproduct of such automation. That's a topic for other videos that I've already posted on this channel. But this is how I want everyone watching this video to think. Watch this video 2 or 3 times if necessary, bookmark it and come back to it again, because a huge economic force for the rest of your life is going to be governed by implementation of AI in this type of scenario. The same revenue stream can be produced for lower cost, and sometimes that moves loss into profit, and therefore that moves businesses that might not have existed into existence. And yes, more jobs are created, because more businesses are created with more revenue streams that then percolate through the economy. This is the simplest foundational concept of how people will get rich through implementation of artificial intelligence. And therefore, it should be high on your priority list to internalize this mode of thought and to expunge from your mind this notion that AI is eliminating your job. Because any job eliminated by AI means the employer is pocketing all of that money, and therefore that profit pool can be competed against. If you like this type of content, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, and thank you very much for watching.